Okay, so in the previous tutorial, we did a sample when we basically imported an Excel file to Node.js environment, and we modified it using JavaScript, and then we basically just created a brand new file as an output. Now what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to do a little bit something more complicated. What I did from our previous example, I did add a folder called files, and in this folder I made a few files. So we have file 1, file 2, and file 3, and if I open them, here's one of them. Here's another one, and 2, 3. So I have all of them open. So I have file 1, it's basically some data. We have 15 rows of data here. And then if we go to file 2, we have another one with a little less data. And then we have the third one with more data. And basically we have the same columns in all of these data sets. And what we want to do, we want to just combine them to one master file. The idea of this is going to be, what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to create a script where we can just bring here to this files folder, copy and paste bunch of files we want to be combined, and then run the script, and it's going to just combine them and create a new file for us. So if you haven't watched my first tutorial with Node.js and Excel, I would recommend you watch that, because it will walk you through the whole installation for Node.js and everything else, how we got this all set up. And that will bring you here, and it should also give you understanding about how we bring the file in, how we install the packages that we need. So all of that is gonna be in the first one. Watch that one if you don't know, and then come back to this one. Now in this one, I'm gonna make a new script file. So I'm gonna go to this left panel, I'm gonna go roll over this new file thing, and I'm gonna call this combine.js. And in this new file, we're gonna first get started by importing our library. So we'll do var XLSX equals to require, and we'll require that package XLSX. I guess let me zoom in a little bit. Now out of that package, XLSX package, we should be able to do read file. The file is going to be whatever file we're trying to read. So this is going to be the actual file name and the path to the file. So if I was trying to read a file from this directory, if you remember, when I was reading this file, macpivot 2017, I just write macpivot 2017.xlsx, the name of that file. Now we're going to save this to a variable, wb equals to that, and then we can basically read that worksheet and get a tab from that worksheet. Now when you're trying to read tabs from the worksheet, you can refer to that tab by the name of the tab. So if you did something like wb.sheets, what you do in square brackets, you just refer to the name of the tab you're trying to target out of that worksheet. Now the problem that I'm gonna have with this is that these files that I have, if I look at them, see this one has the file tab called data. Now if I go to the second file, that has a different tab name. So it's not like every single file has the same name, so I can't just target the worksheet by the name. So what I need to do, I need to just grab the first tab. So in order for me to do that, this doesn't accept an index. So I cannot go here and say sheet 0 or sheet 1. I have to do the name of the tab. Now to get the name of the tab in here, what we can do, if you remember, I did show you this in the first tutorial. If we do this wb sheets, actually sheet names, that one. This, if I just do variable worksheets equals to this, Let's just console log this so we can see what's in it, just to refresh our memories. Console log, we're gonna console log those worksheets. I'm gonna save this, and then I'm gonna run this. So this file is called combine.js. So we're gonna go here, node space combine.js. I run that. See, we open the file. It gives us the names in that file. So if I wanted to grab the first tab, that would be the first item in this list. So if I do the 0 index, because that returns an array out of this. Now if I save this and run that, so same thing, see, it's gonna give us the name of the tab, which is the first one. So this will give us the name of the first tab. So we'll say first tab name. So because we have that now, we should be able to use that name to get the first tab. So we're gonna take the workbook we have, and in that workbook we have sheets, and in the sheets we want to grab that first tab. So that's gonna be the first tab name. We're gonna get that, and that's gonna get into a worksheet. So we'll do var ws equals to this. So now what I want to do, I want to take that worksheet and read the data to an array. So to do that, I'll do var data equals to, and I'll do XLSX dot, and we're gonna get to our utilities, and in our utilities that is gonna be this option that's called sheet to JSON. And again, I went through this entire thing, so I'm gonna go through all of this quickly. Watch the first video for more details. So this is gonna be that worksheet WS. We're passing from here. We're passing to this to get it to a JSON object, which is the data. So at this point, if I just look at that data, just to look what's in it, I'm gonna save it and run this script. See, we get that entire thing into an array of JSON objects, which is pretty much what I want to accomplish. Now, to make sure we get proper JavaScript dates, we'll also go here and add our options. So we'll do cell dates, and that should be true. So again, Command S or Control S, up arrow key. Now see, we have proper JavaScript dates. All right, that's good. So that basically gets us this. Now what I want to do, I want to convert this to a function so I can use this on many files in many instances without having to repeat this entire piece of code. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a JavaScript function. We're gonna call this read file to JSON. And then we'll just open our brackets. So what we're gonna do here, we need to accept parameters. So mostly what I want to do, I want to basically just do all of this. So I'm gonna cut that and move this inside of this function. And I'm gonna remove some of these lines to make this nicer. So in this function, what I want to be able to do, I want to be able to change the name of the file that we're trying to open, and we're going to give it different file names, and based on that file name, we're going to go open that file and basically just return the data. So for that, I'm going to go here and do file name as the parameter in this function, and then I'm going to pass that parameter here instead of using that hard-coded worksheet. And then instead of console logging the data, we'll just return data, which will basically be that JSON array. Now, if we wanted to use this function, we now can go here and say read file to JSON and basically just give it a file name. So I'm just going to use the same file for now. So that's going to be Mac pivot 2017.xlsx, And that should basically return what we need. So if I just save it into a variable, var data equals this, and we can console log that data to see what we get. So I'm going to do console log and data. Save this. So I'm going to run this just to see what we end up with. So I'm going to go here and up arrow key after I saved, run. And we got an error. So let's see. No such file or directory. Okay, so I probably mistyped the name of the file. I guess the lesson is don't mistype the name of the file. So save that again, run, and there it is. So that returns that array. So now we should be able to just do this one line to read the file, open it, get the first step, get the data, and return that entire array. Okay, so for now, I'm just gonna comment this out because I don't want to really read the file, but we're gonna need this function later as we go through our code. Now, the next thing we're gonna need to do, we're gonna have to learn how to get to this directory. So if you remember, my script is in this directory. Now in this directory, I made this files folder. Now in this files folder, I have all the files. So what I need to do, I need to be able to read through all of these files inside of this folder to see what files we have here. So I need to get the names for each one of these files out of the system. Now, to do this, I'm gonna have to import new libraries here. So I'll do var, and these don't need installation because they're built in with NodeJS. You just have to make sure you import them. So I'm gonna include fs, which basically is going to allow us to interact with our files, with our file system. So require, so we're gonna take that and we're gonna do fs. So close that. Too many equal signs. Let me fix that. So now that I have this fs, I'm gonna be able to read some files and do things like that. So you see there is all of this like different methods we can use out of this. Now we can do our read directory, which is basically going to read the contents of the folder. Now when we do this, we need to make sure we provided the directory we want to read. So first we have to get the right directory. I'm going to have to basically find out what directory I'm in right now. So to do that, there is this thing when you do double underscores. See, there's this dir name, that's your directory name. So if I just console log this so you can see what's in it, I'm gonna save, and I don't think I'm logging anything else, so I should be able to just go here and run this. See, what it gives me is the directory that I'm currently in. And that directory is basically, I'm on a Mac, so I'm in users folder in the username, and then there is a folder called learn, and then there's this XLSX node folder, which is the folder that I'm currently in. That's our project folder. Now in this folder, we have this files folder. Now what I could do, I could just say, okay, great. So let's just take this and concatenate like another one of these things and do this. So by doing this, if I save this and I run this again, that will give me the path to the folder that I want to read. So let's save this into a variable. We're not going to do it this way, but let's start this way anyways. So I'm going to say target directory, something like this. It should be equal to that. So we're going to make it our target directory. Now, because that's our target directory, we should be able now to go to that fs variable and read the directory. So see, there's this read directory and read directory synchronous. I'm gonna use synchronous for all of this because I want this to be more like regular scripting experience for us. But you can also do async reads, which is awesome in Node.js, but that would be too complicated for now. So let's just keep this simple. So I'm going to do the synchronous version, and really just to go over it, if you don't know the difference, synchronous means when it runs this line, it's going to wait until it's done, until it moves to the next line. Async, it's going to run that line and it's going to just move to the next line and run other lines while this one is still working on it. That's this. So we're gonna have to give it the path that it needs to read. So that's gonna be our target directory, and this should return. So let's do var files and array. So if I just log this out, let's see what we get. So I'm gonna go here and up, run. See, what I get is the contents of that folder. Now, see, I have file 1, file 2, file 3. Those are these files. And because they're all opened right now in Excel, I then also get all this underscore dollar versions. That's basically all the files that are currently opened. And then we also have this DS store that's coming from our Mac OS system. So we have some things that are hidden, we can't see, but we also read the 3 files that we need. So that reads to an array of files that are currently in that directory, including all the hidden stuff we usually don't see when we look at this directory. All right, so that's good. The problem with this script right now is that what I did when I created this directory, I made this directory name and then I did /files. Now, the problem with this method is that if I'm not on a Mac system, this is not really an accurate path. So on Windows system, paths will work like you would have like your C drive, and then you'll have, I don't know, some folder, and then basically see how it has all this type of slashes like this way. So it's not really the same separator for Windows machines that it is for Mac machines. So how can we make this compatible for both machines? So what we do, there is this library that we can import that's called path. So I'm going to require that library, and that's going to make this easy for us. So again, path, that's going to be the name of this. Save that, scroll down, and now instead of using this to create our target, what I'm going to do var target, that same thing, equals to, and then this path, if I do dot, there is this method called join. And in this method join, you can just pass things you want to join together to create a path to a file or a folder. In this case, I'm trying to create a path to a folder. So what I'm going to do as the first one, I'm going to do this, comma, and as the second one, I'm going to give that files. And I'm going to get rid of this line. And that's going to accomplish the same thing. The only difference is if you're not on a Mac system, it's going to automatically figure out what the separator should be and then do the separator on that system and make it work. I should be able to run this and get the same results. So up, run, see, I get the same stuff. Good. So now what we want to do, we want to loop through those files. So our issue is we're trying to open each one of those files and then combine them together and then output hopefully to a new combined file. I don't want to open every single file here. I only want to open these 3 files, not these and not that. What I'm going to do to filter this out, first of all, I'm going to make sure that all the files that we're looping through are actual Excel files. And then the second thing, I'm going to make sure that none of those files are hidden files. So none of those start with a period or this character, whatever that is. All right, so let's see how we're going to be able to do that. So now that we have this files thing, We should be able to loop through that. I'm going to just do a for each loop. And because it's an array, we can do this. And that will accept a callback function. And for that callback function, each time we'll loop through those files, it's going to give us one of those file names. So just to show you that, let me actually just log that out. So I'm going to console log that file. And let's just run this so you can see. And see, it just outputs like the first file, then we log the second file, the third file, so we'll loop through those files. So what I want to do when I get that file, I want to make sure that it's an Excel file. I'm going to use, again, that path package. And in this path package, there is this parse option. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to parse that file. So let's see what happens when we do that. I'm going to go and call this var parsed path equal to. And let's just output that and see what we get. And it's going to run for every file, so we're going to get a lot of them. So I'm going to save this and up arrow key here again. And see what I'm getting. I'm looping through those files. And basically it's parsing it to an object. And it gives us like the root, the directory, the base, and all of these things. And one of those is extension. So you can see how for the first one, there's no extension. The second file, which is this file1 XLSX, the extension, which is this ext on this object, is .xlsx. So that will give us the extension. Which means if I do that, and just get that ext, which is the extension. And I'm going to change this to file extension. I should be able to just run this and get the file extension. So I'm going to save this and run this again. See, it gives us like the first one, this empty one, there's no extension. Then we have every other one, it's an Excel file. Which means now we can write an if condition. So we can say if that file extension equals to .xlsx, then we'd like to do something. And what we're going to do is, for now, just log that out. So I'll just log out the actual file, which will be the file name. Save and run. So now we should only be printing Excel files. The other file that we had before is gone because this if condition is eliminating it. Now the next thing we want to do, we want to also make sure that like this thing, open file thing, where it starts with this character, those are not a part of this as well. To accomplish that, I will have to get the first character out of that file. And the way I can do that, if I just log this out, if I do file and do 0 like this, let me just run this. See, it gives me the first character. So it gives me F, 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 and gives me this. So that will give us the first character of that particular text. So that will allow me to just go in this if statement and just add another condition and say, I want to also make sure that the first character of that file is not that character. So let's save this and run and see what I get. And now I'm just going to output the file name so we can see. So I'm going to go here, up, run, and see what I got. I only have those Excel files. We don't have those open versions. We don't have that extra stuff coming with this. It's just our files with XLSX extension. Now, one thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to move this files thing to a variable. I'm going to say here on top, var source folder. Let's actually just do the dir is this. So that will allow us later on to update this easily without digging into our code. And I'm going to go scroll down and then change this to, so now that will be the directory we'll be targeting with all those files. So finally, this gives us every file name. Now we already have something that reads our file name and gets us a JSON array as an object. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go on top here before I even get to doing all this reading stuff. I'm going to create a variable combined data equals to an empty array. So initially, I'm going to make my combined data an empty array. And what I want to do, I want to add to this array. I want to read every single file and add to this combined data array. So to do that, all we have to do is just take that combined data and then dot concat, which will concatenate that other array to this. And what we're going to concatenate is this data we get back when we read the files. So if I just copy this right here and go on top here like this, so that will read that data. Now, instead of doing this hard-coded thing, I'm just going to pass it the actual file. Now, there is going to be a little problem here because this file is just the name of the file. What we need is the full path. So we need the folder name and all of that, and then the file in there. So I can't just say file right here. What I'm going to have to do, I'm going to say var full file path. And that is going to be, again, we're going to use that join thing in this path import with it. And now what we need to join the directory name, the source directory, which is those two things. And in that directory, we'll have the file. And that should give us the full file path. Now, before we start using this, let's just confirm that this is accurate. So I'm going to comment those two lines and let's just console log that, console.log that full file path. I'm going to save that and run this. And see, we get the full file path and the file name goes right in there, which means we should be able to now just use that as the parameter in the function we created. So now, because that's a data array, we should be able to just concatenate that data array to our empty array. And the first time it's going to be an empty array. But then the second time it runs, it's already going to have the first array, but it's going to now concatenate that second one to it and the third one to it. And it's going to keep going until it has all of them. So now if I just go back here and just log that combined array, combined data, I guess that's what we called it, and run this, let's see what we get. So we got an empty array. That's not good. And to troubleshoot this, I'm just going to try to log that combined data right here to see what's happening, because I think I know what's happening. So I'm going to go here and run this. Well, I see what I did here. All right, so I forgot to, when I concatenate the array, I should have assigned it back to the array. So this should have been, it returns a new array. It doesn't actually modify it. So what I have to do after I concatenate the data to it, I have to save it back to the variable combined data. I think that's what I did wrong here. Now let's just verify that. So now if we try to run this, we should hopefully get, yep, we get our data. That should be everything combined. Just to make sure it is accurate, I'm gonna do the length to see how many elements we got in this. So since it's an array, we should be able to just calculate the number of rows. So it says 43. So let's go back into our files. So we got 15, but it's really 14 because labels don't count. So 14 here. 14, 11, and 18. So 14, 11, 18. That's pretty much where we are. So we end up with 43. And I believe that's what we had, didn't we? Let's go back, check it out. Yep, 43. So that's good news. So we're getting the right results. So that should be our combined data. A little hiccup there. So finally, we need to now get this new data to a new file. So to make that, we're going to create that new file. So we're going to do XLSX dot. Under utilities, we're going to have our book new method. That's going to create a new workbook. We're going to say var new workbook is that. Then we're going to read this combined data to a worksheet. I'm going to say var new WS equals to. Again, we'll go through this and we'll do JSON to sheet. And the JSON would be that combined data. So now we need to add this worksheet to this workbook. So again, we're going to go through XLSX. Again, utils dot, and we're going to add, maybe it's append. There it is, book append sheet. The workbook is going to be this. The worksheet is going to be this. And the name for the tab will be combined data. That's just a tab name for our worksheet. So that should create our worksheet with our combined data. So now we need to write it to a file. So we'll do XLSX dot write file. And that's going to accept a workbook. That will be this new workbook that we just made. And we need a file name. So we'll do new combined data.xlsx. And that should do it. So let's just do a console log in the end. Let's say something like done. Save this. So now I'm going to run this. Now this file will be created in our current folder, not in that files folder, because it's going to create that file in our scripts folder. And that makes sense because we don't want to put our combined file with the rest of the files. That would not be great. So I'm going to go back here and run this. So it's done. There is the file. Let's go back and open it. So not here. I'm going to go to the upper level. We should have that file somewhere in here. There it is. I'm going to open it. And here's our combined data. So that's our 43 rows and the labels on top, that makes it 44. And X out of that. We actually don't need to have these open too, so don't save. Close all of that. Now what I'm going to do, just for the sake of trying this, I'm going to drag that combined file to this folder, because remember, the idea is whatever files we put here, it's going to combine them. So now it should be combining all of these and that too, because it's an Excel file. So let's test this. I'm going to go here, arrow up, run the script. It says done. Open it. And we should have double the number of records because we're doing it twice. And we do. Awesome. So we're able to go to that folder, grab all Excel files, combine them, put them together, and here's our final worksheet. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. and I'll see you in the next one.